adelante.
Bueno, no sé, ¿entró Phil ya o todavía no?
No, todavía no.
Bueno, tenemos al Tigre. El Tigre hoy, en vez de preguntarlo, vamos a hacer trabajar. Así que, Carlos, te estábamos esperando. Con Pocha estábamos un poco nerviosos.
¿Por qué?
Porque no nos contestabas y estábamos ahí viendo cómo solucionábamos el tema.
Bueno, estaba ya tratando de terminar de comer antes de entrar.
Me dijo Pablo, debe estar almorzando, seguramente debe estar almorzando. Así que vamos a esperar que entre Phil. El tema es que lo que me planteó Phil, que tiene un problema porque como empieza la NBA, tiene muy poco tiempo porque tiene otro Zoom con el equipo, con los Lakers, así que a ver.
Bien, antes que nada les comento, mientras entra Phil, que el día sábado, mañana a las 3 de la tarde, va a estar el base del equipo puntero de la Liga Nacional de Básquet de Argentina, el señor Juani Brusino, donde va a ver el jugador, cómo mira a su entrenador. Así que a su entrenador y a sus entrenadores. Y el día lunes va a estar Jorge Guerriña. Jorge Guerra, más conocido como Guerriña, uno de los mejores entrenadores de Brasil. Y el día jueves que viene ya está confirmado la visita de Gonzalo García, entrenador argentino, múltiple campeón con San Lorenzo de Almagro y asistente por muchos años de la selección argentina. Y van a haber otros más que los vamos a ir anunciando. Así que mañana a las 15, Juani Brusino. Lolo, ¿cómo estamos?
Ahí me dijo Phil que entra en unos minutos, me dijo, así que no sé si entrará, cómo entrará.
Chicos,
Carlos, como tenemos poco tiempo, Carlos, te lo vamos a regalar enterito, ¿eh?
Ah, bueno.
Así que
sería ideal si los compañeros tienen preguntas que las pasen por el chat para entonces.
Ahí está Phil y empezamos directamente. Carlos, empezamos.
Los saludamos. Hola, Phil.
Coach, good morning.
Hey, good morning for you. How are you?
How are you?
Nice to see you.
Good. You as well. How's everybody?
We have only few time, so we want to enjoy you. So Carlos Morales, you know Carlos Morales. Carlos will be like a translate. Thank you so much for your time.
No, thanks for having me, Coach. I appreciate being here with you all.
Coach, thank you for being with us today. Could you start by giving us a little bit of a background of your background as coach?
Yes, Coach. I've been coaching in the NBA for 9 years. I retired from basketball officially in 2003, and after my retirement, I started my own training business, and I did that for 13 years, where I trained athletes of all ages, from high school to grade school to college to NBA to European players. And I did that for 13 years before I took a job as a coach in the NBA. And I started in 2011. It was my first year with the Los Angeles Lakers. I spent 2 years with the Lakers, and then I went to Cleveland. I was with 5 years with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Was fortunate enough to win an NBA championship there. I was in Toronto last year with the Toronto Raptors. I was fortunate enough to win a championship there last year with the Raptors, and now I've come full circle and I'm back with the Los Angeles Lakers again for my second time.
Okay, let me translate that for coaches that don't speak English. El coach se retiró en el 2003 como jugador y tiene una carrera ya de 9 años trabajando en la NBA. Tuvo 13 años con un negocio propio de desarrollar jugadores, de trabajar jugadores tanto de NCAA como de NBA, como jugadores europeos, básicamente. Luego en el 2011 comenzó con los Lakers y de ahí pasó a Cleveland, donde estuvo 5 temporadas, ganó un campeonato y precisamente tuvo la suerte también de estar con Toronto el año pasado cuando ganaron también un campeonato, o sea que tiene 2 campeonatos y ahora regresa de vuelta a los Lakers. Coach, what would be your philosophy or working with players? Like, are you considered a skills coach or more of a coach that puts everything in perspective of the game as such?
Yeah, Coach. I mean, obviously, skill development is where I started, but I look at myself as more of a coach. You know, we coach the game and we teach the game entirely. And I've also tried to help a lot of people in the NBA move away from putting development coaches in a position where they're not coaches, because we coach and teach. All of us teach different aspects of the game. So myself, I look at myself as someone who likes to coach the game entirely. I coach skill, I coach offense, and I coach defense.
Ok, le pregunté al coach que si él se consideraba solamente un entrenador de destrezas o mucho más general, trabajando con el juego como tal. Y él dice que aunque él trabaja las destrezas, quiere que lo consideren un coach completo, un coach que ayuda a desarrollar jugadores en todo el sentido, específicamente tanto en defensa como en ofensiva, y que se vayan alejando un poco del pensamiento de que el coach de destrezas solamente puede enseñar destrezas, sino que puede hacer muchas cosas más. Depending on the different players that you have, do you have a work, not a work schedule, but a way to developing perimeter players versus a big man?
You know, Coach, yes and no. I will say this. I created my program and I found my foundation. And my foundation has always been, no matter what position, no matter what player, I always focus on footwork and I focus on balance. So for me, I don't care what position you play. If you're a forward, if you're a center, if you're a guard, the same footwork that applies on the perimeter will apply in the post, and vice versa. The same footwork in the post will apply on the perimeter. So from that standpoint, I train all players from a basic, fundamental stance of good footwork and good balance.
Le pregunté al coach si tenía alguna forma distinta, diferenciada de trabajar cuando trabajaba destrezas con los perimetrales y con los internos. Y me dice que básicamente no, que él cree que todo se basa en el trabajo de pie y en el balance. Y no importa si está jugando en el perímetro o está jugando adentro, el trabajo de pies es el mismo y el balance es el mismo. Por lo tanto, él piensa que puede trabajar las mismas destrezas con todo el mundo. Coach, I'm going to start by asking some other questions from other coaches that have been on the chat. So let me see if I can find one right here. One very good question here is, during this quarantine, how have you been working with your players in this off time?
Yes, Coach, we've done a lot of virtual training. So a couple years ago, I created a basketball training app called the 94 Feet of Game app. And through my app, I've been able to take videos and make videos for our players. And we've sent not only myself, but our medical staff, our strength and conditioning staff, we have sent a lot of videos for our players to do virtually. And I've actually had a chance to work with some of our players one-on-one in Zooms and sometimes on FaceTime. So, you know, we've had to get creative in terms of keeping our players active.
Sí, la pregunta que hicieron fue que cómo se mantenía entrenando a sus jugadores durante la cuarentena. Y dice que todo ha sido virtual, utilizando distintas plataformas, Zoom, FaceTime, y una que él creó, que es una aplicación que se llama 94 Feet App. Is that the name?
94 Feet of Game app.
Yo la pongo en el chat ahora, Carlos.
Game App. ¿Perdón?
Yo la voy a poner en el chat para que la puedan leer.
Daniel is going to post up your app so that you will be, the coaches will be able to see what it is about. Así que dijo el coach que básicamente se ha mantenido activo con sus jugadores vía virtual, que es lo que prácticamente han hecho todos los coaches durante toda esta cuarentena. Let's check on another question from the board. There's another question here that even though you have been an assistant at the professional level so far, what do you think that it takes for somebody to make the jump from assistant coach to head coach?
No, Coach, that's a great question. I firmly believe that assistant coaches, our responsibility, one, is to be a soldier, or I like to use that word soldier, as an assistant coach, my responsibility is to carry out the orders of my head coach. My responsibility is to make sure that I am on top of everything that he wants me to do in fulfilling my role. And I think to be a head coach, you have to understand what it means to be a video coordinator. You have to understand what it means to do scouting. You have to understand what it means to be every position as far as your assistant, so you can be a good leader. So I think for me, I've always been one that's been very, very, very powerful in doing my job and being focused on being the best at my job. Organically, if I become a head coach, I'll be ready for that because I'm focused on my job at hand and I haven't skipped steps.
Le preguntaron al coach que a pesar de que él en el nivel profesional solamente ha sido asistente, ¿qué creía él que tomaba llegar a ser, a dar el salto a entrenador principal, el coach? Y dice que eso es una muy buena pregunta, porque él como asistente se considera un soldado de fibra, una persona que va a su trabajo y que hace lo que hay que hacer para hacerle el trabajo mucho más fácil al entrenador principal. Pero que un head coach, un entrenador principal, va a tener que tener conocimiento de lo que es el video, de lo que es el scouting, de lo que es ser un líder, y que cada una de esas funciones hay que llenarlas a cabalidad. Por lo tanto, él cree que la mejor preparación que puede tener un asistente es que lo que le ponen a hacer, hacerlo lo mejor posible en ese momento y hacerle el trabajo lo más fácil posible a su jefe. By the way, coach, that's a very good answer.
Thank you, coach.
Okay, let me see some other questions from here.
Las tuyas, Carlos, tus preguntas son importantes, dale.
Okay. Have you been able to work with Kyle Kuzma, coach?
Yes, I have.
How do you see that he's having this year? That at the beginning of the season, he was like a step back, and then he started coming into his own. What do you think about that?
Well, I tell you, a lot of people look at Kyle Kuzma from the previous year, right? And you take the Lakers team, they didn't have Anthony Davis. You know, they had LeBron, but they also had some younger players. And our team changed. The moment Anthony Davis became a Laker, the whole dynamic of our team changed. And so that meant that guys like Kyle Kuzma, his role would change. So he would not be able to take as many shots. He would not score as many points. And early in the season, it was a struggle for him to understand his role, understand where his shots come from, what shots are good, what shots are not good, and then understand how to play with two elite players like LeBron and Anthony Davis. And I think you see him taking most of the season to adjust to that and understand the tempo of the game and where his shots will come from. And you saw him get a little bit more comfortable in his role.
Sí, una pregunta que le estaban haciendo por el chat era que pensaba de la temporada que había tenido Kyle Kuzma, que había comenzado un poquito lento y luego ha agarrado ritmo. Y dice el coach que hay que tener en cuenta que el rol cambió totalmente para Kyle Kuzma de ser un jugador estelar y titular el año pasado a con la llegada de Anthony Davis, incluso tener que venir del banco, que al principio se le hizo difícil entender cuál era ese rol y ese cambio de papel, y a la misma vez jugar con dos jugadores elite. Ya él jugaba con LeBron el año anterior, pero ahora tenía que también ajustarse a Anthony Davis, y que eso lo ha hecho muy bien en la parte final de la temporada, y por esa razón ha tenido una mejoría. Coach, what do you think about the season, the way that they're going to end the season by playing in Orlando, one side, all these different things that we have never seen before, and hoping that we're going to have a champion in October?
You know, Coach, these are different times that we live in, right? Yes. So I don't think any of this stuff that we're dealing with is normal. And I think what the NBA has tried to do is just come up with the best format possible for us to finish the season. And you know, there's a lot of teams that are going to be left out. You know, there's different players that won't get a chance to play. But me personally, I'm excited for the opportunity for us to finish the season and just get back to playing basketball through these difficult times that we're all in.
Okay, le pregunté sobre el formato que se acaba de ya aprobar ayer para terminar la temporada jugando en Orlando y jugando todos en una misma instalación. ¿Qué pensaba de esto? Y dice, bueno, estos son tiempos totalmente distintos a los que estamos viviendo, cosas que no habíamos visto nunca antes. Y hay que hacer lo mejor de la situación que se está dando. Piensa que la NBA está tratando de hacer lo mejor que se pueda para coronar un campeón finalmente, y él personalmente está muy ansioso y está muy contento de volver a trabajar.
Carlos, mucha gente cree que él tuvo la suerte de trabajar con Kobe, con LeBron, con Kyrie Irving, con Leonard. Mucha gente cree que esos jugadores juegan así porque tienen talento y no saben todo lo que esos jugadores hacen por fuera para mejorar todo el tiempo. Y como él trabaja en el mejoramiento de los jugadores, sería bueno que él cuente un poco hasta dónde hacen esfuerzos que muchos otros que tienen mucho menos talento no lo hacen.
Yeah, Coach, Daniel's question is that having the opportunity to coach and work with players like LeBron, Kobe, Kawhi, Kyrie Irving, and all that. Most people think that the things that they do is just because they have talent, which they do, right? They do have talent, but most people don't know how hard they have to work to get to the top level in basketball. And you have had the chance to work with all of those. What would you see as the main trait that they have besides talent and the way that they have worked?
Man, Coach, that is the biggest denominator of all of those guys. Common is their work ethic is at a very, very high level. And I mean, they work endlessly. Their love for the game is very high, and they have not just rested on their physical talents. They actually put in hours and hours and hours of work, not just on the court, but off the court as well. How they take care of their bodies, how they eat, how they stretch, how they're in the weight room. Their work ethic, if I give you an example, Coach, real quick, I'll use Kobe Bryant as an example. If we practice at 10 a.m., Kobe Bryant is in the gym at 5:45 a.m. and his day starts there. At 6 o'clock, he is on the court for 45 minutes. After he gets off the court, he'll go into the weight room for 45 minutes. Okay, at 8 a.m., at about 8 a.m., 8:30, he'll have a little breakfast. He'll take a nap, and then he'll come back onto the court at 9:40 to do another 20 minutes of work before practice. Then he goes through practice. After practice is finished, he will shoot another 100 shots, right? And then he'll go into the weight room, and that kind of completes his day. That's massive work ethic right there, Coach.
Definitely. Sí, a la pregunta de Daniel, dice que lo que tienen en común todos estos jugadores que llegan a la excelencia es la ética de trabajo, el amor por el juego y las horas que le meten a su mejoramiento, no solamente en la cancha, sino fuera de la cancha, la forma como se alimentan, la forma como descansan, la forma como hacen ejercicios de estiramiento, y que podía poner de ejemplo a Kobe Bryant, que cuando había un entrenamiento a las 10 de la mañana, él llegaba a las 5:45 y ya a las 6 estaba en la cancha lanzando 45 minutos. Después hacía 45 minutos de pesa. Después tenía un desayuno, se tomaba una media hora para tomar un desayuno, otra media hora más, de media hora 45 minutos para dormir una pequeña siesta, para volver a estar en la cancha 20 minutos antes de que empezara el entrenamiento. Terminaba el entrenamiento, tomaba 100 disparos más al aro y luego volvía al cuarto de pesas, al gimnasio, a trabajar un poco más en su físico, y ese era el día de Kobe Bryant. Unbelievable, Coach. That's,
Coach, and I think I also want to add this. They are true students of the game. Their basketball IQs are unmatched. They study their opponents. They study themselves. And then to add into their basketball IQ, they're the fiercest competitors that you'll ever be around. They want to compete in everything. I don't care if you're competing to tie your shoes the fastest. They want to compete in everything that they're doing. And so those combination of things, Coach, they comprise of how they become some of the best players that play.
También dice que añadiendo a lo anterior, el coeficiente intelectual de estos jugadores, especialmente para el básquet, ¿no? No solamente la ética de trabajo, sino el conocimiento del juego, el estudio que hacen siempre de los rivales y que hacen de sí mismos, y que son competidores acérrimos, que siempre quieren competir al máximo nivel, y que eso es lo que hace la gran diferencia con ese tipo de jugador que llega a la excelencia. Okay.
Carlos, acá hay una pregunta que la hace Emi Arce, me parece muy interesante. ¿Cuál es la manera que lidera el equipo LeBron James y qué diferencias, si las hay, encuentra con el liderazgo de Kobe y si conoce el de Jordan, ¿no?
Sí, una pregunta. I'm sorry, I was translating Spanish to Spanish. A question that came from the chat is that what do you think about the way that LeBron leads the team, the leadership skills of LeBron, and if you can make a comparison of those leadership skills with the way that Kobe used to lead, and if you have had any chance of seeing the leadership skills of Michael Jordan in the past, how do you compare those three players in terms of leadership and their leadership styles?
Well, I will say this, first and foremost, all three of those players are very demanding of their teammates. They're very demanding, and not just of their teammates, they're demanding of us as coaches as well. They want to be pushed, right? They want to be coached. The misconception is that a guy like LeBron or Kobe, they don't, or even MJ, is that they don't want to be coached. It's quite the opposite. They want to be coached. They want to be challenged. They want to be pushed. So that, in that sense, they are very demanding. How they lead, LeBron is a team guy. He's very inclusive, right? He sets the example by being selfless. He wants all of his teammates to be successful. And that is a little bit different than Kobe and MJ. They want their teammates to be successful, but those guys lead from a stance of, I'm going to show you how to do it first. A little bit different, you know. So Bron is all about, I need my teammates. And I think Kobe and MJ were always all about, yeah, I need my teammates, but I'm going to show you how we do it by leading, by showing you what I'm going to do every day. And Bron's the same way too, but it's a little bit more on the self versus the team. And they took on a lot of responsibility on themselves to do things, where LeBron also takes on a lot of responsibility, but he also wants his teammates to be involved to make sure that everyone's successful. Their leadership skills are very similar, but also very different. And just that, again, they're all very demanding and they all want to win. But the bottom line is, all of those guys, they work so hard, Coach. They demand that their teammates follow their lead and how hard they work, first and foremost.
Okay. Dice el coach que los tres, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant y LeBron James, siempre han sido jugadores como líderes que demandan mucho de sí mismos y de sus compañeros. Demandan mucho de sus compañeros, pero no solamente de sus compañeros, también de los entrenadores, porque son jugadores que quieren que los entrenadores le exijan y que los jugadores los reten, o los entrenadores, debo decir, los reten a ser mejores y a trabajar cada día más. Pero que hay una pequeña diferencia, a pesar de que los tres son iguales en ese sentido, hay una diferencia con LeBron versus Kobe y Michael, y es que LeBron siempre trata de darle más poder a sus compañeros para que esos compañeros también brillen, y que de esa forma es como él lidera, mientras que Kobe y Michael enseñaban ellos con la acción, como yo quiero que ustedes trabajen fuerte y miren cómo yo trabajo, y demandaban de esa manera, que esa es la pequeña diferencia que puede haber entre los tres, que LeBron James le daba un poquito más de poder a sus compañeros y confiaba quizás más en sus compañeros. Would you say, Coach, that LeBron trusts his teammates to achieve goals a little bit more than Kobe and Michael? And that's the reason why Kobe and Michael would take it upon themselves to succeed.
Absolutely. And I think you see, look, Kobe and Michael got to a point to where they trusted their teammates more, right, as their careers went on. But LeBron came in as a guy who always trusted his teammates. And I think early in his career, a lot of people gave him a lot of bad, you know, a lot of media they were very tough on him because of that. And he always took the stance, Coach, of, I want to try to play the game of basketball the right way. What does that mean? Even as a top player, if I'm double teamed, if I'm triple teamed, that means one of my teammates is open, and I'm going to make that pass and trust that my teammate is going to make the right play. Whereas, you know, Kobe and MJ, you know, they were so confident in themselves. They said, well, even though I'm triple teamed and double teamed, I'm still going to take this shot because I believe in myself.
Yeah. Okay. La pregunta que le hice para completar lo que estaba diciendo de liderazgo era si él pensaba que quizás LeBron confiaba más en sus compañeros que lo que lo hacían Jordan y Kobe. Dice, sí, al final de sus carreras, los dos, Jordan y Kobe, fueron ganando más confianza con sus compañeros y dándole más responsabilidades, pero en un principio, desde el principio de su carrera, LeBron James era así. Confiaba en sus compañeros y siempre hacía la jugada correcta. Si yo tengo una doble o una triple marca, se la voy a pasar al que esté abierto. Y que eso le daba muchas críticas de parte de la prensa porque pensaban, pero no se toma los disparos o la responsabilidad como la toman Kobe y Michael. Y decía que la diferencia grande es que Kobe o Michael Jordan, aún con doble marca o con triple marca y habiendo alguien solo, podían pensar en algún momento, tengo más chance yo de meterla, así que este tiro lo voy a tomar yo. Y esa es la gran diferencia. Okay, some other questions here. Yeah, is there a player in the NBA that you love to train, that you haven't had the chance to train because you haven't worked with his team, but you would love to train because you see that you can help him get even better?
You know, Coach, Kawhi Leonard was that player. I tell people all the time, before I got to Toronto, he was the one player around the NBA that I really looked at and said, man, I really think I can help him take his game to another area. And so that was kind of fulfilled for me last year because I didn't know Kawhi. And when I decided to go to Toronto, the Raptors had not traded for him. So to answer that question, Kawhi Leonard was that player. And for me, I'm thankful that I had a chance to work with him and coach him.
Sí, la pregunta era si había algún jugador que él no hubiese entrenado, que le gustaría tener la oportunidad de entrenar. Dice que tuvo esa necesidad, veía esa necesidad de entrenar en algún momento a Kawhi Leonard y que se le dio cuando el año pasado, sin conocerlo, él va a Toronto y tiene la oportunidad de trabajar juntos y era un sueño que él tenía, entrenar a Kawhi y tratar de ponerle cosas a Leonard, y cree que eso trabajó muy bien. How about those players, coach, that people say, well, as soon as they develop an outside shot, they're going to be unstoppable? Like Ben Simmons, for instance, Giannis Antetokounmpo, who has been working on it. What do you think about that? And how can you develop an outside shot once you're already an NBA player?
Coach, it's all about details. You know, it's really about taking steps backwards. So you take a look at Ben Simmons and Giannis. Those kids are freakishly athletic, right? Naturally. So for them growing up, they didn't put an emphasis on learning how to shoot. And so now, as their careers are going further and further in the NBA and they want an opportunity to try to compete for a championship, they're going to have to spend some time and learning how to shoot the basketball. And I think that's what you see. They're going to have to take some steps backwards and really put some time in the off season. You know, some of them, they might hire a shooting coach and spend the whole summer working on their mechanics. So we're not reinventing the wheel, coach. We're talking about just basic fundamentals of going back to square one and them guys learning how to fix their mechanics, learning how to become better shooters day in and day out. And it's just going to take some time for them to really do it and put the time in on it and then grow more confident in it as the more they work on it.
Would you say that that's one of the main things, like getting that confidence besides working on the mechanics? Because some players, even though they work, when they get to game time, they're unwilling to taking open shots because they think that they can hurt their team more than they can help them, and it starts working in their minds.
Well, you know what, Coach? That's why we always tell players about working on your game. And I use this phrase to players all the time: trust your work, right? Trust the work that you put in. So if you're spending countless hours working with a shooting coach and you're working on your mechanics, trust it. That's why we work on our game. That's why we put in the time to work on different skills to where we can gain confidence in what we're doing, right? So the work that you put in, trust it. It's as simple as that, Coach. This is how I talk to our players about remaining confident. You know, you put in the work, now let's trust it.
Bien. Le pregunté al coach sobre jugadores que ya están en la NBA y que la gente dice, bueno, tan pronto desarrollen un tiro de afuera, un tiro exterior, se van a convertir en indetenibles, como por ejemplo Ben Simmons o Giannis Antetokounmpo. ¿Y qué tendrían que hacer estos jugadores para desarrollar ese tiro? Dice, hay que volver atrás a los pasos, volver a los primeros pasos de ellos, porque cuando estos jóvenes se estaban desarrollando, eran tan dominantes atléticamente que no vieron la necesidad de desarrollar un tiro. Y ahora que están en la NBA es posible que tengan que contratar en el tiempo muerto a un entrenador de tiro, tengan que trabajar con la mecánica, tengan que desarrollar confianza en su tiro. Y le pregunté de seguimiento si esa era quizás la clave, de que muchos jugadores no tenían la confianza, aun cuando trabajaban en el tiro. Cuando venía el juego, pensaban que podían hacerle más daño a su equipo tomando el tiro exterior que no tomándolo. Y que por eso eran renuentes a tomar el tiro. Y dice el coach que él siempre les dice a sus jugadores, para que desarrollen esa confianza, confía en el trabajo que pusiste, confía en el trabajo que hiciste. Tú has estado entrenando, has estado trabajando fuerte para poder lograr esto. Ahora puedes utilizarlo en el juego. Okay, let's see. We have another question from here, from the chat. Okay, what do you think about those young players that are getting to the NBA now? You know, after 1 year of college, in the past they could get to the NBA of high school, but for the last, I don't know, 10 years they have been going to college for 1 year, and now they have a chance either to go to Europe, Australia, or stay in the U.S. with the G League and the new program that they have. Do you think that this is advisable for young players that are not interested in getting a degree from college or getting to the NBA as soon as possible?
You know, Coach, I have mixed feelings on it, because I believe that when players coming out of high school, when they skip college, they do not understand different things about learning the game. They understand how to be coached. They understand how to compete, right? They understand how to play in important basketball games. So I'm going to use a guy like a Fred VanVleet, for instance. I coached him in Toronto. Fred is a leader. He was one of the biggest leaders on that team. And that, to me, was because he went to college. He played, he was coached, and he played in some very, very high-level games in the NCAA tournament to where he understands what it means to compete, right? So I use the comparison all the time, Coach, because I played in Europe for many years. The European system of having players play with grown men at a young age, they learn, right? They learn how to be coached. They learn how to go through practices. They learn how to compete. We're missing that sometimes when we allow kids to skip high school and go right to the NBA. They've missed a whole area of basketball. And so now as an NBA coach, I spend less time coaching and more time teaching, right? There's a difference. There's a difference. Yes, we do have to teach. But as an NBA coach, if I spend 80% of my time teaching and not on coaching, then we went backwards. So I believe that kids should go to school and play a couple years and get coached and understand what it means to compete and play in some meaningful basketball games instead of just wanting to say, hey, I want to be in the NBA. And now you come to the NBA, you really don't understand spacing. You really don't understand how to execute offense. You really don't understand how to set screens or make the extra pass. And we're talking about some very basic things about the game of basketball.
Sí, le pregunté al coach sobre esta situación que hay ahora donde los jugadores tienen que ir un año a la universidad o tienen la opción de jugar en Australia, en Europa. Ahora la G League también tiene un sistema donde no tendrían que ir a colegio. Que si este sería un buen sistema para jugadores que no están interesados en graduarse de universidad, sino hacer una carrera inmediatamente. Y dice que él tiene sentimientos encontrados en cuanto a eso, porque piensa que si bien es cierto que lo importante es llegar a una competencia, muchos jugadores que quieren llegar a la NBA llegan sin tener todavía los fundamentos y sin haber trabajado en competencia fuerte y que los hayan dirigido, que los hayan entrenado. Él cree que les van a faltar muchas cosas y que luego cuando llegas a la NBA, si no tuviste por lo menos un par de años en universidad, él pone el ejemplo de Fred VanVleet, que estuvo varios años en Wichita State y se convirtió luego en un jugador líder en Toronto. Si no tuviste ese tipo de asesoramiento, por llamarle de alguna manera, en la universidad, en college, cuando llegas a la NBA, el coach va a tener que pasar 80% del tiempo enseñándote versus entrenarte. Que son dos cosas muy distintas cuando tú tienes que estarle enseñando a un jugador el juego ya de profesional, y que él piensa que un par de años en universidad serían mucho más productivos para esos jugadores. Si bien es cierto que en Europa él dice que la manera de desarrollar a los jugadores es ponerlos bien jovencitos a jugar con jugadores veteranos, y que eso también los desarrolla. ¿Algo más, Daniel? ¿Alguna otra pregunta que tengan para el coach?
No, hay muchas preguntas en el chat de la gente. Pablo.
Quería preguntarle al coach cómo es el clima interno en el vestuario, cómo es el vestuario en la intimidad la intimidad de los Lakers cuando se ganan 3, 4 partidos seguidos o cuando se pierden 3, 4 partidos seguidos.
Okay. Coach, Pablo wants to ask about the different situations with inside the locker room, the different dynamics inside the locker room when you have won like 3 games in a row during the season versus when you have lost like 3 or 4 games in a row. How different it is, particularly with the Lakers.
Well, I think it's when you have a leader like LeBron, the locker room is very calm, always. And I think what he understands is the importance of, one, sticking together through adverse times. That's what really championship teams are about, being able to manage adversity, right? Now I'm gonna use the example of us. We were down 3-1 to the Golden State Warriors in 2016. And I think the rest of the world was like, hey, that series is over. There's no way that they can come back and win. It's over. After that game that we lost in Cleveland, game 4, our locker room was so calm. It was so calm. And that was because our leader was calm. Coach Tyronn Lue and Coach LeBron James were very calm. And they made a simple message to the team. Hey, listen, we have 1 game to win. If anybody in this locker room does not believe that we can go to Golden State and win game 5, do not get on the plane. It was just as calm as that, Coach. There was no heads down. And so I believe when you lose a few games, the leaders have to remain calm to keep everybody else calm and understand, hey, we have work to do. Let's continue working. Let's continue getting better. But this is not the time for us to break apart. You know, in those times, you really have to stay together, and your leaders have to have the right mentality to help everybody move in the same direction.
Same thing with when you're in a winning streak. Like you have had like 3 or 4 games that you won, but the same thing, right?
No different, Coach. It's the mentality of never too high and never too low.
There you go. Yeah.
You know, it's a little different. I understand. Like, again, I played in Europe, and I played on teams where we lost a game, and I felt like the end of the world was coming because the mentality. You know, every game in Europe, you know, the owners, the management, everybody's so tense, and you want to win every game. But the fact of the matter is, in sports, you can't win every game. You know, that's what you play for, that's what you strive for. But the mentality of never too high, never too low is what we try to carry throughout the regular season and even into the playoffs.
Sí, dice el coach que una de las razones por las que el equipo se mantiene en un buen nivel es por el liderato, y específicamente por los Lakers, LeBron James, que le da esa calma al equipo en una racha victoriosa o en una racha de derrotas, y que lo más importante es uno poderse mantener juntos como equipo ante la adversidad. Pone de ejemplo cuando estaban en Cleveland y cayeron en la serie en la final contra Golden State 3-1, que tanto Tyronn Lue, el coach en ese momento, como LeBron James demostraron una calma tremenda y decían, nosotros lo que tenemos que ganar es un partido. Vamos a ganar un partido en Golden State. Si usted no cree, le decían a los jugadores, que podemos ganar, por favor no se monten en el avión mañana para ir a Golden State, porque nosotros vamos a ir a ganar allá.
Carlos, discúlpame, Carlos, hay un pequeño detalle de lo que Phil dijo el coach Tyronn y el coach LeBron.
Sí, claro.
O sea, me parece que es trascendente eso, ¿no?
Sí, claro, o sea, que LeBron como líder del equipo era otro entrenador más. Y otra de las cosas que dijo es que mantenerte, nunca estés ni muy alto ni muy bajo. O sea, el balance siempre debe ser el mismo en una racha de victorias o derrotas, porque tú vas a mantenerte siempre enfocado en la meta, en el trabajo y en el próximo juego, y no irte ni muy arriba cuando estás ganando, ni muy abajo cuando estás perdiendo. Él tuvo la experiencia en Europa, claro, posiblemente jugando un partido a la semana, que era vida o muerte para todo el club, para los entrenadores, para el presidente del club, para la hinchada. Todo el mundo era vida o muerte. Cuando perdían un partido parecía el fin del mundo, y que es bien importante que nosotros como deportistas tengamos en cuenta que no se pueden ganar todos los partidos.
Yo también tengo ahora otra pregunta que es, me gustaría saber para el coach Phil, qué significa para él la presión, y relacionada a una segunda pregunta, si LeBron siente que estando en una franquicia como los Lakers, conlleva una presión extra para ganar la NBA.
Okay, Coach, Pablo is asking you, what's your definition? What do you feel, or what do you think about the word pressure? And a second follow-up question would be, and if LeBron being now a Laker, if he would feel like the pressure is even more just because he belongs to that franchise now.
You know, Coach, I think pressure is for people who are not prepared. You know, so I've always been the type of coach and a player that, again, I'm going to put in the time. As a coach, I'm going to study my opponent. I'm going to know my scout. I'm going to know how they run their offense. I'm going to know how they run their defense. And I'm going to be prepared to combat that and just coach. And so players are the same way. It goes back to, again, putting in the time and the work on your game. So when you get to the game, there's no pressure. I'm prepared. And now we have to do is just go out and execute, right? And you want to be able to play to the best of your ability. But the main thing for me is about playing hard and coaching hard. And so I don't ever feel any pressure because I'm always prepared. I prepare myself every day. And then I think for LeBron, I think that the challenge was, hey, I want to go back to the Lakers. I want an opportunity to be part of that great tradition. And I want to bring back the winning. And that to him is a challenge. He took that upon himself to say, I need a challenge. What's the challenge? Let me go and see if I can bring the Lakers back to prominence. And, you know, man, that's what these elite players do, Coach. They look for challenges. And I look at that as what he did and said, this is the ultimate challenge right here. Let me get out of my comfort zone. Let me go back to the Lakers, and let's see if we can build this team back up and help them fight for a championship. And so for me, pressure, again, is for those that are not prepared. If you're prepared, there's no pressure. That's just how I look at that, Coach.
Okay, Coach dice que para él la presión la sienten los que no están preparados, los que no se preparan. Que cuando tú haces el trabajo de scouting, cuando sabes lo que el otro equipo va a hacer defensiva y ofensivamente, cuando preparaste a tu equipo, cuando entrenaste, no tienes por qué sentir presión. Y que los jugadores específicamente tienen exactamente la misma situación. No estar sintiendo presión solamente por el hecho de que tengan un partido importante, porque si se prepararon, si hicieron el trabajo previo, no hay razón alguna para sentir presión. Y en el caso particular de LeBron James, él tenía un reto. Él quiso ver esta firma con los Lakers como un reto para ver si podía devolver al equipo, a esa franquicia, a un lugar de prominencia, llevarlos a un campeonato. No tanto una presión, sino un reto personal para LeBron James. ¿Algo más, muchachos?
Sí, Carlos, Phil vivió la etapa en los Lakers, su primera etapa con Jerry Buss, y ahora lamentablemente Jerry Buss no está, y me gustaría saber qué cambió en la franquicia o qué siente él que cambió al, obviamente, no estar más el super líder que tenía el equipo, ¿no?
Yeah, Coach, Daniel wants to know, you've been on those two different stages or eras with the Lakers, with Jerry Buss as the owner and not being Jerry Buss anymore, not being there anymore. What's the big difference, if anything, changed inside the franchise with Coach with Jerry Buss or not having him?
You know, I think his daughter. I mean, obviously, man, Jerry Buss goes down as one of the greatest owners in NBA history. But I think what his daughter is doing, Jeannie, she's really carrying on his legacy, and she kind of has the same mindset as her father. And I think probably there was some years, you know, my first time with the Lakers was when Dr. Buss passed away, and the team and the organization was in a little bit of a spiral. You know, that was a big hit to the family, and that was a big hit to the organization. And there was some turmoil between some of the siblings about how to run the organization. And so I think you saw some years where the team just didn't have the right direction. And once they got through that and Jeannie took over, she really just kind of went back to the foundation of what her father was about and how he ran the organization. And now you kind of see the organization trying to turn the corner and get back to, you know, who they used to be. And so, and I think Jeannie is doing a great job of really just trying to carry on her father's.
Sí, dice el coach que cuando falleció Jerry Buss, por un momento parecía que había una lucha interna entre los hermanos de cómo se debía correr la organización, y por un momento hubo un retroceso, que la organización parecía que no podía seguir el mismo camino, pero que Jeannie Buss le ha dado básicamente la misma dirección que le daba a su padre, y está tratando de cargar con ese legado del padre, y que ahora ya parece como si la organización hubiese dado vuelta a la esquina y ya esté encaminada nuevamente a luchar por campeonatos.
Conoce el coach Phil, conoce el mundo FIBA seguramente, y qué piensa del básquet americano, ¿no?
Yeah, coach, having been a player in Europe and all that, the question is about FIBA basketball. What do you think about FIBA basketball and a little comparison with American basketball?
Oh, I love it. I mean, I played my first 2 years in and out of the NBA in the mid late 90s, and once I left, I didn't come back. You know, for me, it was about wanting to have a career of playing basketball. So, you know, my first year in Europe was I played in Nancy, France, and I loved it. It was just it was different, and that was my first experience, you know, playing basketball in Europe. And again, once I got to Europe and I just saw the passion for the sport, I saw just how there was all these different countries that had different leagues. I really was educated to basketball more on a global scale. And so my respect for basketball outside of this country grew immediately. And like I said, I spent the next 8 years, Coach Pablo, I spent the next 8 years. I played in France, I played in Italy, I played in Germany, I played a little bit in Spain, I played in Israel, I played in England, I played in Australia. So I went through all of these countries, and that was probably the best things about my career, is that it helped me become more of a diverse person in terms of understanding different cultures, understanding different food, all these different things. So that was the best part of my career, having the opportunity to go and play in Europe and just learn a little bit more about life.
Dice que le encanta, el básquet FIBA le encanta, que fue importante en su carrera. Después de un par de años en la NBA, se fue a Europa, jugó en Francia originalmente, pero después estuvo en muchos países más, tanto en Europa como también en Australia, y que de esa forma le abrió los ojos a lo que es la diversidad, a distintas culturas, a distintas comidas, que piensa que ha sido bien importante para él el baloncesto FIBA, la pasión que ve en estos países cuando se sigue a los distintos equipos, y que para él ese baloncesto internacional que se fue de Estados Unidos y nunca más regresó como jugador, es gran parte bien importante de su carrera y de su vida.
Carlos, en algún momento, varios años atrás, yo le comentaba a Phil sobre, primero, que tenga mucho cuidado, porque la respuesta va para los entrenadores argentinos, así que tiene que tener cuidado con lo que va a responder. Yo le comentaba de Facundo Campazzo. Durante el Mundial de China, yo le dije que Facundo era el mejor base del Mundial, y entonces él me dice, ¿mejor que Kemba Walker? Bueno, me gustaría saber su opinión de Facundo Campazzo.
Okay, Coach, Daniel wants to ask you something, and he said, be very, very careful, because you're answering this question for Argentinian coaches. He says that some years back, he told you that Facundo Campazzo was the best point guard. And in China, during the World Championship, he said that he was the best point guard of the tournament. And that you said, better than Kemba Walker? And what do you think about Facundo Campazzo now?
No, man, I love the kid. And even when coach told me about him, like I said, I'm a student of the game. So I hadn't had a chance to see the kid play, and I watched him in those games, and I became a fan. Just understands the game, and coach was spot on, man. You know, he saw something and knew something about a kid that I did not. And, you know, of course, I know Kemba Walker. I've been around him many years, but for me, I don't look at basketball as the best player being the guy who scores the most points. That's not how I view basketball in terms of, I look at, you know, players and again, what's your basketball IQ? Can you see the floor? Can you make decisions? Can you involve your teammates? Can you do a plethora of different things? So Coach Daniel was on point, and I actually became a fan of that kid, and looking forward to seeing him in the near future.
Le encanta Facundo, obviamente. Dice que es un jugador que demostró, él no lo conocía y él es un estudioso del juego, así que quiso empezar a estudiarlo un poquito más. Y dice que Daniel estaba en su punto, que había visto algo que él no había visto, que a él le encanta Kemba Walker, pero que él no ve el juego como que un point guard tiene que ser solamente el que más anote, sino el que hace todas esas otras cosas para hacer al equipo mejor, y que Facundo las hace todas, y que espera quizás en algún momento, se ha convertido en hincha, en fanático de Facundo, y que espera en algún momento verlo en la NBA.
¿Qué te parece que son rivales de conferencia algunos? El juego de Houston y de Golden State cuando predomina el small ball.
Pregunta Pablo, Coach, Pablo is asking about small ball. What do you think about Golden State when they play small ball, and now that Houston has gone all in with small ball? What do you think about that style of basketball?
Well, you have to have the right players to play small ball. I don't think every team can do that. Golden State was built for that. If you look at their team, and the small ball to me is successful if you have a guy like Draymond Green that's small enough but strong enough and athletic enough to guard centers. And that's where the success in small ball comes in. Can you dominate at the center? So even for us with the Lakers, now we play a brand of small ball, because to me, Anthony Davis is not a center, but we play him at center. We play LeBron James at the power forward, and then we go from there. That's our version of small ball. Golden State was a team that kind of really changed the NBA in that sense, because they had the players to do it. Houston, to me, is a little different. Their brand of small ball is built on trying to outscore you, trying to shoot more threes than you, and I don't agree with that philosophy. There's no defensive element to it. If you're going to play small ball, you still have to be able to defend, right? So to me, small ball, I look at that to say, I want to play small, but I want to be able to switch everything and guard everything. And that's where you see Golden State having a lot of success with that. So, you know, I think there's two different brands of small ball, Coach. there's Golden State, and you can see the success that they had in the championships. And then there's that brand in Houston where really the small ball is just built around trying to outscore you. And I don't think there's any in the history of the NBA, there's never been a team that's won a championship just purely trying to outscore you.
I agree 100% with that, Coach. Dice el coach que primero hay que tener los jugadores correctos, los jugadores precisos para poder jugar small ball. Y que el juego de small ball de Golden State se diferencia mucho del de Houston. Por ejemplo, el juego de small ball de Golden State tiene éxito y le dio campeonato porque Draymond Green es un jugador aún bajo en estatura para la posición de centro, pero suficientemente atlético para poder defender centros. Y que ellos, los Lakers, juegan una forma de small ball porque Anthony Davis para él tiene las destrezas de un perimetral y lo ponen en la posición de centro, o ponen a veces a LeBron en la posición de 4, y esa es su forma de jugar small ball. Que él no está muy de acuerdo con la forma como Houston juega small ball, porque esa es otra marca totalmente distinta de small ball, y es la que apuesta solamente a que con el triple voy a anotar más que tú, dejando de un lado la defensiva. Y él, a lo largo del tiempo se ha probado que tú no ganas un campeonato en la NBA solamente anotando sin ponerle énfasis a la defensiva. Así que hace esa distinción del small ball de Golden State versus el small ball de Houston.
Hey, Coach, there was somebody asked a question on here that I would like to answer. It just popped up on my screen. They asked, can you tell us about the Dwight Howards, how his new role on the team is different versus his role being a franchise player? And I think that's a very important topic, role players. And what Dwight Howard has done in his return to Los Angeles is he has fully accepted his role. And he has really went through some dark periods in his career, right? His fall from being a franchise player actually started when he came to the Lakers that one year, and it kind of started the downhill for him. I think he really had to change his mindset. He had to change his mindset and value the importance of doing whatever it takes to help your team win. And that's what you see in Dwight. He has bought into his role with the Lakers 100%. And I think what we try to get all of our players to understand, when you play with a guy like LeBron and you play with a guy like AD, you have to have very high-level role players. And those role players have to be willing to be stars in their role. We use that term, be a star in your role. So for Dwight, we need you to be the best rim protector. We need you to be the best defensive rebounder. We need you to be the best screen setter and roller that you can be for this team. And anything else outside of that is just a bonus. And so he's accepted that, and he's become a star in his role, which has also helped us be very successful this season.
Sí, dice el coach que quería contestar una pregunta que vio del chat, y era precisamente sobre el cambio de Dwight Howard de haber sido un jugador franquicia, básicamente jugador franquicia de Orlando, a cuando empezó a perder ese protagonismo. Tuvo unos momentos difíciles en la NBA que empezaron precisamente cuando pasó por primera vez a los Lakers, y que hoy día es un jugador de rol, y que cómo lo ve, y dice que para él es bien importante los jugadores de rol, y que el éxito de Dwight Howard ahora es aceptar que es un jugador de rol, que cuando tú tienes en un mismo equipo a Anthony Davis y a LeBron James, tienes que saber que vas a tener roles totalmente diferenciados y que cada uno debe ser estrella en el papel que le toca, estrella en su rol, star in their own role. Y eso lo ha logrado hacer Dwight Howard, porque a él le pide, mira, Dwight, pon bloqueos y luego sí, déjate ir hacia el aro, protégenos el aro y agárranos rebote. Cualquier cosa que hagas después de eso es bono. Y que él ha aceptado ese rol y que le ha ido muy bien tanto a él como al equipo por esa mentalidad, porque hay que cambiar la mentalidad cuando tú eres un jugador franquicia y te conviertes en un jugador de rol. A ver,
vamos a hacer, Carlos, solamente 2 preguntas más, porque en principio Phil había dicho que tenía solamente media hora y después fue demasiado generoso regalándonos 1 hora, así que tampoco vamos a exprimirlo tanto, ¿no?
Okay. 2 more questions, Coach, because we know that you have other commitments and we have been past the half hour that you
That's okay, Coach.
Told you about. So 2 more questions.
No problem.
Okay.
No problem.
Let me see something here with okay, there's a question about one of my favorite players right now. The impact of Caruso on your team.
You cannot. It does not show up in the stat book. His impact on our team is, man, it's huge. And, I didn't know Alex before I got here, but learning about him and seeing what kind of player he is, he's one of those guys too. He's right along with Dwight. His ability to be a star in his role is undeniable. I mean, he stays ready. There are some games, there have been games where he didn't play, but he come back the next night and he might play 25 minutes. And his impact on the game, he brings energy on the defense. You don't see that in the stat book. He's always in the right place on defense. You don't see that in the stat book. He's a guy that's selfless. You don't see that in the stat book.
Mm-hmm.
All of these attributes that he has, it doesn't show up in the points or the assists. Man, he's a glue guy. He's one of those guys that comes in and again with the mentality of what can I do to help us win this game. Whatever you need me to do, coach, I'm going to do it. And that is something, man, that every championship caliber team needs. You need players like that to help offset the things that LeBron or AD does. So, Alex Caruso's value to this team is very, very high.
Le pregunté sobre Alex Caruso y el valor que tiene y el impacto que tiene en el equipo, y él tiene un alto concepto, altísimo concepto de Alex Caruso. Dice que es un jugador pegamento, el jugador que hace las cosas, muchas de ellas no van ni siquiera a los libros de estadísticas, pero siempre está listo para contribuir en el costado defensivo, siempre está en la posición correcta, siempre hace el pase adicional, y que además de eso se mantiene preparado, porque se da el caso con Alex Caruso de que hay partidos que no juega nada y la próxima noche juega 25 minutos y está listo para contribuir, y que ha sido bien importante también en el éxito que ha tenido el equipo hasta el momento. ¿Una más?
Dale, Carlos, dale. Puede ser tuya, si sabes algo de la NBA o algo, puede ser tuya, qué sé yo.
Yeah. Coach, after this stoppage that during the season and now being back to play, what will be the emphasis to get your team ready to compete again? Because a stoppage like this, again, unheard of before, and now you have to get your team ready to compete right away, play 8 regular season games and go straight into the playoffs. What would be the approach to get them ready?
Man, Coach, the approach for me is to have everybody on the same page, right? We got to be united and come back with the same mindset that we left with. As right before the break or the season was stopped, our team was moving in a direction where we were preparing for the playoffs. And obviously coming back, one, we have to get our guys in shape. That's the first thing, right? Get guys in shape so there's no injuries. We want to keep everybody healthy. So getting guys in shape is just all about just getting our bodies back in the gym and going through all of the things that we work on every day, our defensive concepts, our offensive concepts. And then we just really got to get ourselves moving in the right direction and prepare to make a run in the playoffs. This is going to be one of those things where I think everybody's in the same boat, but the team that's in the best shape, from day one, Coach, is going to have a huge advantage. And that's my focus, to make sure and help our guys be in the best shape that we can be in and where we can compete at a high level.
Sí, le pregunté al coach sobre ahora que hubo esta detención de la temporada y hay que regresar a jugar 8 partidos de temporada regular para luego ir a playoff, ¿cuál sería la mejor forma de enfrentar eso como equipo y como entrenamiento? Dice, bueno, lo primero, la mentalidad que teníamos, porque ya estábamos casi listos para ir a playoff cuando hubo la parada, y lo segundo, más importante, estar en forma física, estar en la mejor forma física que se pueda estar, en la mejor condición de juego para evitar lesiones y para que el equipo pueda producir de la forma que lo venía haciendo. Todos están en la misma, todos los equipos van a estar en la misma situación, pero él piensa que esa quizás sea la clave. On my part, Coach, I want to tell you how much we appreciate spending this time with us. I want to wish you luck with the upcoming season, but the continuation of the season. And you've been very nice to be with us today, knowing that you have other commitments. So thank you so much. Pablo, Daniel, si quieren.
Pablo.
Sí, yo lo único que quiero decirle es que gracias por su tiempo y que lo esperamos en Argentina o para dar una clínica o para pescar si le gusta o para unas vacaciones. Es invitado nuestro.
Yeah, Pablo says that thank you for your time, and at the same time he's inviting you to come to Argentina if you want to have a clinic or if you just want to come fish or spend some time on vacation, that you can be his guest.
Coach, man, listen, this has been an absolute honor for me to be in this room with everybody, all the coaches, men and women. Thank you guys for your time today. And Coach Pablo, I'm gonna take you up on that. Come to Argentina. I would love to do a coaches clinic and do some fishing. So thank you guys for having me on today.
De mi parte, Carlos, muy agradecido, y yo, mis hijos y yo le debemos todo lo que él hizo cuando fuimos a ver los juegos de Cleveland, así que por este tiempo súper agradecido. Y si Pablo lo va a llevar a pescar, nosotros lo vamos a llevar a pescar, a cazar, a correr, todo lo que quiera hacer. Acá lo esperamos.
On behalf of Daniel, he says that his sons and him are very grateful for what you did for them when they went to Cleveland to visit. And if Pablo is going to take you to fish, he is willing to take you to hunt or to do whatever you want to do because they're going to be expecting you in Argentina.
That sounds great. That sounds great to me.
Thank you,
All
Phil.
right.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
thank you guys.
Thank you
Everybody
very
stay
much.
safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Chicos,
Bueno, Carlos. Gracias,
Sí.
Carlos. Un
a
fenómeno.
ver, Carlos, sos un fenómeno, gracias. Y bueno, el padrino de todo esto es Carlos, así que espero que todos reconozcamos lo que está haciendo Carlos por nosotros y por ustedes. Mañana a las 3 de la tarde, Juan Brusino va a estar el base del equipo primero, que va primero en la liga, y seguramente nos va a contar qué es lo que ve él de los entrenadores. El lunes, Guerriña, entrenador brasilero, muy buen entrenador, uno de los mejores entrenadores de Brasil. Y el próximo jueves, Gonzalo García. Así que, Loro, gracias, Carlos.
Hombre, gracias a usted.
Hemos disfrutado mucho. Muchas gracias a todos. Nos vemos mañana.
Hasta mañana. Hasta luego.